Okay, I guess I'll start. Hi guys, my name is Christina Kelly. I am a voice actress for Japanese anime. Some of you guys might know me as the voice of Ulti from One Piece, mine and Akame got killed, Alice Not Green Food Wars, Alpha and the Eminence in Shadow, Miyako Saito and Oshinoko, and many, many more.
Woo! Hi, what's up? My name's Kieran Strange. I'm the one with the funny accent. My pronouns are he, they. I started as a singer and fell into voice acting after having a lot of voice acting friends who told me go become a voice actress for drama. But I love it. It's super fun. Oh gosh, you might know me as Laura in Borderlands, Paladin Mike in Tiny Kingdoms Wonderlands. I was in Awashi, Louis in Case Study of Vanitas, Apothecary Diaries. I'm young Denji and Chainsaw Man, a whole bunch of stuff, but it's really fun.
Denji.
I know, I'm traversing the world as a trans voice actor, which is both fun and terrifying. But I enjoy it, it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Jeremy G, also a voice actor. You would know me from Ninja Kamui as Joe Higan, Akashi in Haikyuu, Aisu in Alice in Borderlands, Rick Flag in Suicide Squad ISEKAI.
Oh, yeah.
Suicide
I
Squad.
was wondering,
That's right, we're lovers in that. Yeah. Forgot about that. Forgot it was in that.
Kaiji and Kaiji Ultimate Survivor. That's one I always say because it's my favorite, and no one ever knows it, but you should.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I love Kaiji.
Yeah, I'm the Enchantress in Suicide Squad, June Moon, and like our characters are like totally like the thing. So forgot about. Oh, that's right, it works.
That's
Sorry.
yours.
That's right. Okay,
That was just for you.
I'm gonna shut up now.
And my name is Dr. Anime. I'm a YouTuber, and no, I do not
You
do
have
voice.
a PhD in anime?
Actually, I have an MD.
He's like an actual
Yeah,
doctor.
I'm also Dr. DC. So.
That's actually really dope. Oh, that's so cool.
All right, so we will start this off. FYI, we will do fan questions closer to the end. If you have any questions, I'll just kind of have you guys line up, and yeah, we'll do that closer towards the end. So we'll start prepping your questions. I know you guys have a lot of them. All right, to start off, well, we already did introductions, so that's good. How did you get into the industry?
I'm leaving. No, I'm just kidding. Am I going first? I'm so sorry.
You're always
I just
going
totally took charge.
I'm gonna
apologize.
take my trans male privileges.
Okay.
Ladies
Oh,
first.
sorry. Yes. Okay.
Ladies first.
You're so sweet. Okay. How did I get into voice acting? I got a degree in acting from the University of Houston, and there was an adjunct faculty member named Loraldo Enzaldua. You guys might know him. He's the lead in High School of the Dead. He's one of the leads in Food Wars. He's been in tons of anime. And he was like, hey, you have a really great voice. You should come and audition for this anime dubbing studio called Sentai Filmworks. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't watched anime in so long. And, I was really focused on schools. Like, I was like a senior, it was like fall semester, like finals. I was like, you know what, I'll go, see what happens. I had a terrible audition. I was also kind of like congested and I wasn't like feeling great. So I was like, all right, whatever, screw this. My audition was terrible. But then all of my like classmates were getting cast, and I was like, they're not better than me. I'm a way better actor. And anyway, about 5 months later, I finally got a phone call to do some like bit roles in this anime called No Game No Life. It's pretty popular, and that was in February of 2015. And yeah, I've been doing it for almost 10 years this coming February. So. And then I was in Love, Change, Beyond Other Delusions, and then a few other titles, and now I'm here talking to you guys. So that's how I got my start.
Fairly similar. I went to school at San Luis State for musical theater, and while there, I met Bryson Bogus while doing a musical, who was the lead in Haikyuu and everything else. But I knew him as lead in Haikyuu because that's how I started, was with Haikyuu. Obviously, there's like a bajillion and 6 guys in that show.
That was your first role
ever? Haikyuu was my first one.
And that was a pretty good role, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Some people get thrown in.
Pretty
that's
impressive.
what people like.
Swim.
But,
Yeah.
we were doing a musical together, and they had asked him, because he was about to be the lead in it, do you know any guys in your acting program that would be interested in auditioning? And
There were a lot of guy parts.
Yeah, I think I ended up playing 4 different guys in that show. But yeah, so got to audition for Akashi, and then from there just got more and more auditions at Sentai, and here we are.
All we're here.
And now I'm here. I fell in, like I said. I always loved acting as a kid. My mom came downstairs once and I was like crying on the floor. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm Snow White in the forest and I'm lost." Okay?
Aww.
So I've always like loved acting, but music was my big thing. And so I moved to Canada when I was about 18. I just sort of, I was an A+ student, but I could not handle any more college. And I was like, oh, everyone in Canada and their dog is in a band, so I'm going to
So
be
you're gonna be a rock
band.
star
I'm gonna be a rock
instead.
star.
Yeah.
And we did the indie rock thing. I played at a lot of bar shows as well as a lot of anime cons and pride festivals. And that was kind of how I met other voice actors. I became friends with like Tatum and Caitlin Glass and John McDonald, and we just hung out in the green room, just vibing. And I was like the safe space where they like bitched about their work.
Aww.
And so I was like, I'm never gonna become a voice actor. This work sounds crazy. It's so
terrible.
stressful.
Yeah.
Joel hit me up one day and was like, we're casting for Borderlands 3. I have this character, we're really struggling to figure out her accent, but I have a weird feeling that your natural accent sort of sits where this character is. So do you mind just reading the lines so we can hear what the character sounds like in your accent? I was like, sure, why not? I was late for my first audition.
Were you still living in Canada at this point?
No, I was, yes, I'm still living in Canada, but I was in the middle of getting my work visa because I
Okay.
was touring anyway. So I was in the process of that, thank God. And I get a phone call one morning and it's Joe and he's like, yeah, we just want to hire you.
Aw.
Apparently it was unanimous, so I was like, oh gosh. So I got thrown in at the deep end like Jeremy, and I was up there acting with huge names that terrified me that I knew both as people and from my childhood. And so from there, Caitlin was like, Ciarán's acting. I have a non-binary character. I really need to cast. Can I hear? And so I learned an American accent in 5 days, which was awesome. And I just fell into it from there and ended up living in Texas, which is fun.
Yeah.
But no offense. Bit different from Vancouver, BC though. So, but I love it.
Can
It's
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you feel like having a musical background that
Yes.
helped with your accent?
oh yeah.
I feel
My
like that
accent
helps
for the
with,
rhythm.
yeah.
Yeah, and just for voice acting, I've met a lot of voice actors who are
Yeah.
singers, and they say it helps
Yep.
them engage the chord. Do you sing at all?
I
or-
do sing, but I'm sorry, I'm totally saying
No,
like
I'm
everything.
curious.
But I feel like when it comes to like accents, like having a musical background helps
Yeah.
a lot.
And
with
moving
accents.
between being trans as well, like a lot of my roles I started doing younger guys, and so getting back into more feminine roles, the musical, like
Yeah.
getting the cadence of female voices,
Mhm.
that is really helping. So,
Yeah.
musical backgrounds.
Yeah.
Great.
Out of curiosity, did you guys watch much anime before getting into the industry?
Yeah, so I was a really big Inuyasha fan. I'm probably older than some of y'all, or maybe we're close to the same age.
I think
oh
most
wait,
of
no,
us
everybody,
might be
this
the
is an
same
18
age.
plus con, isn't it? Anyway, I was I watched like Toonami when it was on in the afternoon, like back in the day. So I saw like Outlaw Star and like Sailor Moon, and, yeah, and Dragon Ball Z and all those shows. So those, I was like, what is this? Because I wasn't familiar. I was only like 7, 8 years old whenever that was on TV. I was like, these characters are so cool. Like, this isn't like, because I'd never seen anime before.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Sailor Moon, they're so pretty, but they're strong. And I loved female characters like that growing up.
You don't get a lot of them in Western.
Yeah, like
So-
I loved Mulan, I loved Pocahontas, I loved Meg from Hercules, just like the sassy, strong, like female characters. I always loved those. Yeah, so there was Toonami and I loved those shows. And then anime wasn't very accessible, as I'm sure some of you know. You could either go to Best Buy and spend $20 on 4 episodes, or you had Toonami on like Saturday night. And it
My
was-
friends and I traded DVDs and VHS.
Yeah.
That's how we watched.
Yeah. So you know,
That's how you watched it.
yeah, exactly. So, but yes, to answer your question, Inuyasha is like one of my favorite animes ever. Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, there's a couple, but yes, I was an anime fan, but I never thought I would be a voice actor. I thought I was gonna be on Broadway.
Yeah.
But yeah, but now here I am talking to you guys, and this is a much cooler job. So I'm very grateful.
I love anime so much. I grew up didn't know I was watching anime at the time. Obviously, as a youngster watching Dragon Ball Z, everyone watched Dragon Ball Z, didn't know that was anime, didn't know there was a difference between Western animation, anime, those things. So it wasn't until I think I was like a freshman in high school, a buddy of mine was like, "Dog, you gotta watch Bleach." And I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's an anime." And I was like, "What is anime?" And he's like, we've talked about anime before. I just didn't put together that it was a whole thing. So he had like pirated DVDs of all Bleach.
Beef!
Yeah.
Beef!
I owe him for that.
Straight to
So
jail.
he would just give me like each one, like, all right, once you're done with that one, you can have this one, but he didn't trust me with all of them. I didn't want to lose them all. So I watched Bleach and I was like, now this is nice. And then led into Naruto, and then got into more not just like mainstream shows. I was actually like a big fan of Haikyuu before I got the job. So I was like a little kid, like, oh my god, I get to be in a show that, like, because I mean, I always dreamed, I'm like, oh, I would love to be in Naruto, but I'm like, there's no way that's gonna wrap. So then being a fan of a show before I ever became a voice actor, and then getting to do it was just like pinch me moment. I still kind of like look back like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah, I'm a big anime fan. Most of the time, if I'm watching TV, even today, whether it's preparing for a role by watching the sub or just pleasure watching my whatever anime I want to watch, it's probably anime on the TV for me.
It's kind of the nice thing about being an actor is you can watch anime and you just like, I'm just doing study.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
works.
I'm working right now.
Yeah. I'm studying everyone's performances. Yeah, sure.
When you said pleasure watching, that sounded really weird.
Well, that's because you have a
You
naughty
were
brain.
like, yeah, that was just weird. Yeah, I do have a naughty brain.
Did anybody else feel weird when I said that?
Pleasure watching, that sounds a little weird.
I got a little shiver up.
A little shit.
I'm a good boy.
Yeah.
I have the doctor's microphone.
Yeah.
I was that kid. It was funny because I was watching an interview recently with Rachel Lillis, God rest her, and she was talking about how like she knew that the first time they realized how big Pokemon was getting letters from parents being like, my kid won't get up in the morning, but now they get up and they watch Pokemon, and that was me. Like I got up, I used to think it was gotta catch a ball, and he threw the ball and the Pokemon had to catch it, and I was like, I thought you couldn't get it because you never caught the ball. But that was my thing. Like I never knew what Pokemon was. I watched that in Sailor Moon, Monster Rancher, but I never really, again, like you don't understand that, like, oh, this is coming from another country, this is dubbed in English. The first time I had an experience with that was I was about 11 when Sonic X came out. I'm such a Sonic fan. That was like my first hyperfixation as a kid with Sonic the Hedgehog. And I was like, there's new episodes of Sonic cartoons coming out, but they're in Japan. And it was the era of, like, it was before I got broadband. So I had to leave my dial-up on overnight and download the episode, a really bad fan sub episode.
Oh my God,
And
how funny.
pray it didn't hiccup in the middle of the night, because then I'd wake up the next morning for school and go, no, and I'd have to leave my internet on. And my mom's, it was like $40 an episode. It was ridiculous. But again, like I never really knew what it was.
Right.
I just enjoyed it. And then as I grew older, like, and I got more into like fun fantasy, and like, I started to really appreciate like the difference of the stuff coming over from Asia versus because it is a lot of like the character archetypes when we were growing up. Like there weren't as many strong females in Western anime, and so you really saw that, like in Western animation. So you really saw like different characters and different storylines.
Yep. Very dynamic.
Oh, sorry, that's yours.
Great. And out of curiosity, when you are studying for a part, for example, I assume some of you probably watch the sub, as you mentioned. Do you try to match that, or do you try to put your own flair? Is it a mix of both? What do you do to kind of prepare for that role versus what has already been done?
I don't know what this studying thing
You
is.
go in and just take it like fresh.
Yeah.
You're a psychopath.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time it's not even there. Like when I did the Enchantress for Suicide Squad, we didn't even have those episodes. Those episodes weren't even ready when I got cast as the Enchantress yet. They were ready, like I think like that week, because Japan was still animating some of the episodes. So they dubbed, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they jumped to like
8, 9, 10.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then
because they were stuck on
The mouths were just like blank.
Yeah, there was
I
nothing.
like, what do I do?
Yeah. So
what good is a phone?
my character is there from the beginning, but she doesn't talk, and then she talks in episode 6 or 7, and that I think was when the director was like, "Oh yeah, Christina, we want her to do it." But yeah, there was no studying, there was no episode for me to see. But with just Enchantress, you hear that and you're like, okay, that's going to be a very, that my inspiration for that one was Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, like just very like rooted and strong and beautiful and powerful. But yeah, no, I don't ever get the time to watch anime at all anymore, ever. At me, like a while ago, I think whenever I first started, I kind of had a little bit more time, but now it's like, oh, we need you to come in and do this right now. Because sometimes there are shows that, like the really secret ones.
Oh yeah, you have no idea.
And you have no idea really what it is, and there's no preparing for any audition. It's just a big secret, and then that's it. And you're just auditioning for a couple of the scenes, and then we go, we do it.
So yeah, with those type of roles, for sure, there's no prepping. I mean, you just go based off of your background and like how we came from theater backgrounds, like learning the different archetypes, the different types of characters there are, and obviously you have the director who's going. Yeah, so and you have the
Make
director.
sure everything's warmed up.
Yeah,
For
Just
sure,
in
most of
case.
it's prepping your voice and making sure your body's ready to do whatever demanding thing. But in the circumstance, like whenever I did Kaiji, that sub was out in 2008. And we didn't dub it until 2021. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this. Because it was one of my first like bigger like lead parts, and I was like, I want to make sure, and I want to do, I want to keep the intention. I don't want to just like go off and obviously like make your own flair, do your own thing with it, but I want to keep that same intent that the Japanese brought to it. So I do like to watch it. I'm also just like not the strongest reader, so I want to like have a good idea of like what is going.
He's probably very good. He's just shitting on himself.
Well, it's hard because you've got the screen and everything's moving, and you're also reading and looking over here.
I just like to know, like, especially if it's something like Kaiji, there's so much screaming. Like, after I didn't watch the first time I went in, and I didn't know how much screaming, I didn't know what to be warming up for. And the next day, like, I was supposed to record again, and I had shredded everything. And I was like, maybe not today. Can we reschedule? So, like, knowing that kind of stuff, just knowing what is coming and not just like assuming that so yeah, a little mix of both, bringing your own flair, but also like having a little bit of prep.
And sorry, I'm just gonna say one more thing. So like I'm gonna talk about Suicide Squad again. Like whenever I auditioned for that show, I didn't audition for the Enchantress because she didn't exist. She wasn't even animated. I auditioned for Harley Quinn, and
Did you do the accent?
there are no accents at all for Harley. Japan did not want that at all. They wanted just sassy, cutesy Harley. That's what they wanted for the anime. So no accent. But things like that, it's like I had no idea what I was going in for. It was like just like a big secret, and then they're like, "You're auditioning for this," or I think the guys auditioned for Joker, and that was
Joker, Clayface,
and then King Shark maybe.
No, because you don't talk.
He doesn't talk because I think Andrew Love auditioned for Clayface. Yeah. But like stuff like that, you might audition for just one character, and then from that, because they know your resume, you might get cast as something else, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they can only run so many auditions, right? So it's like typically they'll be like listening to all of those auditions and going, cool, out of these other characters out there.
Yeah, and I think they knew kind of like who they wanted to audition. So yeah.
I think with me, it's like, especially because like in a Crunchyroll in Dallas, there's so many different directors and so many different styles. So I think just knowing who you're going in with, for me, it's like, even if I'm not able to prep maybe by watching the episode, it's like, okay, I know I'm going in with Jerry Jewell, I know or Mike Farland, I know they like a really good close match to the Japanese, so whatever I hear, I'm going to try and imitate that same voice, and usually the kids sound exactly the same face. I'm like, excellent. Other directors like Sean, I know that he likes it if you kind of take your own spin on it, so you can have a bit more fun with like the voice, and they'll always pull you down if they're like, oh, I don't know. But the one thing I like is, I like to know how much I have to scream, how high in my voice I have to go. I have a lot of vocal damage from basically a big weed smoker. So there's a lot of I naturally have a rasp anyway, but there's a big rasp to my voice naturally and a lot of damage. So if I'm shouting, I like to know how much I'm going to be shouting. So anytime I can,
for the end.
Yeah, like anytime I can watch the episode is always good. But especially with video games as well, you don't really have any reference. You just have to kind of go for it and hope.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of
I'm not going to go home and play that game.
There's a lot of like just hoping that you've done the right thing or that you're prepared for the right thing when you go in. Trusting the director. Like,
yeah. You got some really long answers. Sorry.
No worries. And how do you feel the industry has evolved since when you used to watch it to now being in it to where you are now?
Oh God.
There's a lot more of us.
And a lot more of us for sure. Oh, I'm not having my phone. Yes.
You can answer first.
I would say, yeah, there's a lot more of us, which gives you a lot more. Like, I like the old dubs, but it is nice to not hear the same cast at every show.
It's the same voice.
When you have a little gay character, there's like 7 or 8 different actors it could be. It's not always going to be the same guy. I find that the performances are a lot more grounded. Like, there's still a lot of room for really fucking about with that like real high anime, like 90s style, and when it calls for it. But a lot of the time when I get caught in, they want really grounded cinematic performances, and I think that's the biggest way. Like Attack on Titan was the one that made me go, okay, dubbing has changed. Like, and I feel like that's like the coolest part is just seeing people really get to explore some really good grounded acting, like more of that theatrical stuff that maybe you guys learn. And that's why I've noticed they're pulling in more theater actors too.
Yeah.
Because they want that grounded. Yeah.
I guess this isn't necessarily to do with the industry per se, but like anime in general has just become so much more mainstream and accepted. It's not like as like niche or like frowned upon, if you will. Like I remember like when I first started watching anime, like hiding the fact. So I was like, I don't know.
Oh, I didn't. I had a Kagome backpack.
Yeah, not me.
Everybody knew I liked
my
anime
cosplay
in middle school.
MySpace got sent around the school, and I was bullied mercilessly.
No, I got bullied, but I did not care. I was like, I am an anime fan. I love Inuyasha.
But now,
I had pencils.
if
I remember
you
that.
were hiding, you don't have to anymore because it is so much more, accepted, which it should have always been. But I digress. And I think with that, it's becoming so popular. More people are like, "Oh my god, I want to do that." So that's kind of what's bringing in. It's just like how and it's more accessible now. Like like we were talking about earlier. Like you used to have to get the DVDs, you have to do this, but now it's just like you can stream it anytime you want to. Like you can find it anywhere. So I think that's a big boost for the industry. Just having that accessibility is huge.
What was the question again?
I don't know if I answered.
What's changed in the industry? Or
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
No worries.
So Kira Buckland and I were actually talking about this yesterday. She started like 20 years ago. I started 10 years ago, and we said 20 years ago and 10 years ago are so different. But like, and now, like when I first started in 2015, it's just become just so much more like congested, and there's like so much more different kinds of like work and just shows in general. I mean, there was
simuldubbing.
Yeah, and whenever anime was like a really big thing in the early 2000s at ADV, which is now Sentai Filmworks, which is where we started. It was like constant. Like there was tons of anime coming out. Granted, it was like direct to DVD stuff, but I have a really good friend named Shelly Colleen Black. When she started, they were all driving new cars because they were just working in anime so much. They were like, "Oh, we need you to go to this studio, and now we need you to go into these 2 other studios over here." And like her and like David Matranga, like they were just like killing it, like making all this money. And then all of a sudden, the anime industry just like totally like plummeted. And
then Remote opened up in 2019.
Yeah, but like no, this was back in like 2006. Like we're talking like forever ago. And they were like, "Do we come into the studio today? Like what happened? Like are we working now?" Like but anime just like disappeared, and then ADV got bought out, and now it's Sentai. But yeah, from when I started in 2015 to now, it's just anime is so much more accessible. And we got Netflix and Hulu, and Max Originals now has anime on it, which is crazy. And it's we got High Dive and Crunchyroll, so it's changed a lot, and I'm really grateful for that. So we have a lot of fans now and people whose lives we've changed, which is amazing.
And also like the content, like a lot of
Merchandise.
minority characters and a lot of like queer characters, POC characters, like we're seeing like with characters being redrawn who were Black and who are now being redrawn without the censorships. Like there's just levels of understanding of us growing as a human species and as a world global species of like there's certain caricatures and queer caricatures that are maybe a little more offensive, and I find that like we're getting better queer stories and better POC stories, and I feel and disability inclusive stories, and I feel like that is something that's also really changed. Is it's like it's you still get the really raunchy like silly stuff, but at the same time we're getting more of those like real grounded stories. I feel like that's really cool as well. Like just opening up to becoming more progressive.
And now I want to open up the questions to you guys. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask our panel? You guys?
So I got one. Once you guys are done like voicing an anime and it's completely released, do you guys go back and rewatch the scenes and stuff?
No.
Oh, I
No.
do. Are you kidding? Absolutely.
If it's one I like and I'm curious about how I did, I also do it for study. Like with
Exactly,
my fem voices,
yeah.
I want to hear how it sounded against the
Sure.
rest of the cast. But
Yeah.
sometimes
No.
it's scary to go back and rewatch it.
I used to hate it. At first, I listened to myself. I was like, "You sound like an idiot."
I'm gonna
Everyone's
see it.
laughing at
I'm
you.
gonna eventually see it on the internet anyway. It's gonna come up and people are like, "You were so good in this," and they'll send the scene, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that sounded like shit."
That's kind of cool
No, but
because
it-
a lot of people tag us in the scenes on Twitter too. And
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to like be like, do I wanna?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say there are some shows where I didn't really get a choice. My husband is not an anime fan, but there are some shows where he's like, "Oh, I'll watch Chainsaw Man. That sounds cool," and I'm like, "What? You never watch any of my shows. Why are we watching?" He's like, "Yeah, but this is a really, really, really big one." I'm like, all right, but
when you're in something really
yeah,
big.
when you're in something
Oh
really
my
big,
God.
he's like, "I'm not watching One Piece, by the way," and I'm like, "I'm not gonna watch One Piece either." So it's for you. But yeah, like sometimes I'll watch some of my stuff. I did watch Akame Got Killed. That was one that I did watch. I watched Food Wars. But there's just so many fucking shows that I've done now, and I'm like, I don't have time. But there, like, I did watch Suicide Squad. That was really cool to be in because that was a DC title, and now we can say that we were in a DC show. And there's like no Enchantress like characters like really in cartoons at all, except for like in the video games.
Yeah.
So it's me and Cara Delevingne. So, but yeah, stuff like that. Like that's really cool. But for the most part, no, I just don't have the time to go back and watch my stuff.
Yeah, I take it as a learning opportunity. Absolutely. 'Cause you watch it, and you're like, if I could go back and I've done this again, what would I have done differently, and how is that going to influence the next part that's similar to this? How I can change things to maybe up that performance a little bit. So, and also like, I mean, if it's a good show, I'm like, that's me. So I still have that little like little kid like, oh my god, my voice is on TV type thing.
Yeah.
But it's again, I mean, just like being able to grow as a performer by watching and like learning from it. I like to take that opportunity when I can.
We get studio ears, right? When you're in the booth. Like in music, we
Absolutely.
call it studio ears. And we go out and we get lunch and then we come back and listen to everything fresh, or we listen to it in the car on a different set of headphones. And so it's like you get those studio ears and you might come out and go, oh, I really felt like I undersold that screen, but God, I might have to tone it down next time
Yeah.
because you're so in the zone. So it's cool to have that frame of reference, right?
I hate it whenever they're like, all right, we're gonna go back and like put everything together, or like they'll go back and like replay what I just did, and I'm like, please don't make me listen to myself again. Please don't make me listen to myself
we did that
again.
for McMillan
Please.
and Black Butler because we were paranoid about the Scottish accent.
Oh
Because
my
neither
God.
one of us is Scottish. And so we were going back and listening to everything like, I think we could probably do that a bit better. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
But 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, I'm amazing. I'm fine. I don't need to go back and watch it again.
I know I told it.
No, but yeah, I don't like listening to myself, so it's weird.
It's a mood.
Any other
I
questions?
think there was someone this
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Go for it.
That's a good question, though.
When you're out and about, like just in your regular everyday life, do you like just for fun, like try out?
Sometimes I put my American
That's called
on.
split personality.
No, sometimes I put
And
my
yes.
American on just to see if other people think I'm American. And that's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I slip into accents sometimes, just like whatever, and then I meet people with accents. I'm like, don't you
People,
do it?
other actors
my
fall
God.
into British accent and
Oh
they're
my
so
God.
apologetic, and I'm like, no, use it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, but
right?
I'm
Go
always
for
like,
it.
I'm not good at it. No, I can't do it.
Talk English to me. I will judge you.
No. No,
Christina's like, I
so
don't
I'm
talk
just like,
anyway.
sometimes I'm like talking out loud to myself and people look at me weird, you know, I'm like thinking, okay, I need to get bread and lettuce and stuff at the grocery store. But no. Sorry.
John
Is that a bad
McDonald,
answer?
if you ever read his book, he put out a book recently. It's called Getting In, and the whole
That's
point
what
is,
she said.
I know, dude. The final title in my phone, because I did his cover art and I helped put the book together. It's Getting In John McDonald, and I'm perfect with that. But he has a whole story in it about how when he was a pizza delivery driver, he practiced. He was a theater actor too, and he would practice delivering the pizza as the last guy.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
as
You
the
get to
last
like.
guy.
But what if you would deliver to the same house all the time?
I guess
'Cause
he'd be
some
like,
people
can you
order
imagine
pizza
the guy
a lot.
opening the door and it's just him?
Yeah.
He's
It's like, I thought you were Russian. What's with this?
But he would do that. He would use it as an opportunity to just practice on
That's
the spot,
cool.
putting a character
That is cool.
on. Yeah, which is super fun.
I worked at Whataburger when I was a kid. That was my first job.
That is so Texas of you.
And I got to hear all kinds of accents working there. That was pretty interesting. This is before I ever went to acting school. I was like a junior in high school or senior in high school, and so
I fall into accents when I'm watching TV. Kit was watching Ice Road Truckers. And I kept falling
I'm
into
not
this.
familiar.
It's this like proper like, oh yeah, like Canadian
Oh,
accent. And I just kept falling into it and I was like, oh my god, they'd say something and you just repeat it.
100%.
It's just, it's the way you study.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, like that.
My eyes twitching. I think I've had too much energy drink. Okay,
Any
next
other
question.
questions?
How do you think working in voice acting will change in the next 10 years?
Ooh.
I think it's
a lot
gonna.
more competitive. I think it's going to get a lot more competitive. I think there's a lot of people who want to do this thing, and I think that there's so many more shows coming out. There's so many more creatives making more things,
Yeah.
and I think the animation's only going to get better. The story's going to get, and I think the acting pool is just going to increase. So I think it's going to get a lot
It's gonna get more competitive for
Yeah.
sure. I feel like indie animation's gonna really take off. Like seeing Digital Circus and stuff like doing well and Lackadaisy, it gives me hope that we're gonna see more like indie productions come out. I feel like the caricature of the guy and he's peeing on the team that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
I feel like that's us with AI. Like that's what I like
Yeah.
to think will happen. So that's what I'm pushing against. But I mean,
That's more video games that we have to worry about that.
I
think,
don't
than
know.
anime.
I don't know. I'm seeing it talked about in the anime sphere now, and I'm
Yeah.
not happy about it.
Oh,
I like as a trans actor, I like to think that we're gonna have more opportunities. The biggest thing I find is no one wants to cast you as a male, but no one wants to cast you as a female. So we're kind of stuck in this like catch-22 where everyone feels like they're gonna offend us or not pick us right. I like to think we're gonna see a little bit more variation in voices because of that. So not every male protagonist is gonna sound like a 40-year-old accountant. And I mean that nicely, but it's like, you know what I mean. It's like I'd like to see more. Like I'd like to see us go from the Jonah Scott to the Raina King in the protagonist sphere. Like I'd like to see more voices that aren't just the straight mid. Like, and I want to see more females coming out that have these beautiful lower voices and these mid voices. And I feel like the queerness that is coming out with our actors and more directors that are going in different grounded directions, we're going to see more different voices. And I hope that's going to, I feel like we've already broken out of so many anime tropes when it comes to voices. Like, and not just our end, but like what Karen coming out of Japan too is like really changing up those tropes. And I like to think we're going to see more of that here, like more openness and more accessibility for disabled actors. That's something I like being like, I wear my mask to the studio mostly because I'm more worried about catching the flu. But I've also had COVID 3 times. It's really fucked me up, both physically and mentally. And I'd love to see more options available for people who are disabled or immunocompromised or just live remotely. Like I moved for my career, I gave up everything and moved countries, but I don't feel like everyone should have to do that. So it would be nice to see a bit more accessibility as well.
What was the question again?
How do you feel anime will change in the next 10 years?
Oh.
Or voice acting specifically?
I mean, it's changed since we started.
You were talking about how much,
Yeah. I don't know. I think it also depends on the studio, to be honest, because where we work at Sentai, it's they like to really just cast locally, which
honestly is so annoying as a Dallas actor. But when you see someone that really focuses on growing their local talent and supporting that local talent, you can't help but be appreciative.
Yeah, I think they're
Like,
just,
you know,
yeah, I think that they're just more, they
they
don't
care. They care about
just-
you guys.
they have
want you
a
to
lot-
have work.
Yeah, I think that they are like, we have this pool, this amazing talent pool. We have a lot of really classically trained, well-trained actors that live in Houston. and they don't need to record remotely because they have that already.
Yeah.
So I think for them, they'll probably just stick to the Houston local stuff. But with Crunchyroll, it's a little bit more accessible if you do work remotely. Same like for some of the California stuff and the New York stuff. I've worked
Even
at
Crunchy is closing off.
yeah,
That's
they're closing
so
off there
hard for
too.
them, so-
I've only ever recorded really in person there. I've
Yeah.
only recorded
and you
remotely
have
a couple
to
times.
drive up for it. So
Yeah, and I
it's,
drive up for it. But I've worked remotely with New York. I think it's really just going to depend on the studio.
A lot's in flux.
Yeah.
Like a lot is really in flux right now, and like it's scary because we don't know where it's gonna go.
Here it is.
Like, it's definitely, even in the 5 years I've been doing this, it's become more competitive. Like,
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
extremely competitive. I
Yeah.
feel like though, like coming from a theater background, that's just the story of my life. So I don't take it personally.
Music, same.
It's
Yeah.
very competitive. Acting is just there's these especially in anime, there's like, the top 1% shows, right? You have the big 5 right now is like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, like those kinds of shows. So like the like getting cast in something like that is just like insane. But then there's like a ton of other anime, and I don't know where I'm going with this conversation now, but it's
Do you think there might be more? That do you think the production might ramp up? Like,
for the big shows like that.
no, just in general, for just how much we're dubbing. Because I know that Sony turned around and basically said we're making so much money off of anime. Like, it is our biggest driving. So I think like if Japan keeps producing, they're gonna keep bringing it over. They're gonna do more and more. Like Netflix are doing their own in-house stuff in America now. Like it's
I think now like that it's become so mainstream,
Yeah.
especially like Warner Brothers is making
Yeah.
anime of Batman and stuff like that now.
it's
like
crazy.
Marvel,
It's so
It's
cool.
gonna start happening
Yeah.
now. So I definitely think that's gonna change. I mean, now there's a Lord of the Rings anime.
Well, like you
that's,
look at Fox
that's coming out in
Machina.
December, so that's pretty cool. Like that prequel, I don't know if you guys have seen previews for that. So
I
that
feel
looks really cool. Like that's amazing. And
And
I'm
I
a
feel
huge
like
Lord of the Rings fan. So.
Adventure Time and stuff like that also really showed that there is a market for cartoons with adults. And like we always kind of had that like we've always had things like King of the Hill and The Simpsons, but like we've always had that weird like cartoons are for kids attitude in the Western world. And I feel like that's changing. And like I'll be honest, half of it is to do with Black culture, like making Dragon Ball Z cool, making Naruto cool, making it okay to like certain anime because it's being represented by I think it was Vin Diesel who came out and was like, I play fucking D&D. And that was such a fucking game changer for us because we were like, he's just a regular actor. He plays D&D, and it's these people that
So
are
does
coming
Henry
out.
Cavill,
It's so cool, and it's like
my
it's
husband.
So do
Just,
I.
so fun.
My other
Oh my
husband.
God,
I
Jeremy G!
I have 5 husbands.
But it's true. It's like it's become so much more mainstream and so much more cool to like it, and that we're just gonna see more of it. I think.
I just
Like,
didn't
more
give
cartoons.
a shit as a kid. I was like, I like what I want, and no one's gonna get in my way. I like it. So
Vibes.
just yeah. Was it nerd?
Anybody else?
We got time for one more.
Yeah, so I used to be like contracted for like Studio Center, and then eventually, just from opportunities, it just feels like I did all the things I had to, where I made the demo, all that stuff, and then like just suddenly nothing. So like, how do you guys find opportunities or auditions like anywhere? Because I'm sure when all of y'all were starting out, it's like, okay, cool, I want to do this, but what do I do to like get out there and find opportunities?
That's a really good question. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick with it because I don't have much on this. Again, mine kind of came from knowing someone in the industry and being an actor already on stage and having Sentai like to hire stage actors quite a bit. And once you're kind of like proved yourself, I don't like necessarily saying that, but once you prove yourself, they'll start calling you for more auditions. And then I do believe that Sentai has been doing more of like open type calls, but like again, it's local, right? So like you have to be in the area to get in to do these open auditions. And then I know there's different tools like Sound Cadence sends out a bunch of auditions, so you gotta like fill out an actor form. I haven't done it in a long time. But you gotta fill out some paperwork and like send in your demos and everything, and then from there, like they'll review it and says something like in the next 6 months they'll review it, and if you don't hear anything, so it's hard. I don't have too much good advice on this, so I will leave it to my compatriots.
That's a good answer, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I will tell you, dude, I feel you. Like, I have all of those things that you're talking about. I think it's just timing and where you are. I don't know where you're located specifically.
Where are you located?
Like around Charlotte.
Charlotte.
What do you want to do in voiceover?
Just animation games, but like I know the bulk work is a lot of like commercial.
I'm gonna tell you.
Commercial is great too. It pays so well.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna. Recording remotely is extremely difficult. So if they can hire a local person over as opposed to a remote person, sadly, it's just they're gonna do that. It's just the way it
It's
is.
keeping the sound uniform.
And there's a lot of fallout. I've recorded remotely a lot, like a lot. And there's a lot of fallout with Source Connect and things like that. So if they can choose to hire someone who is local as opposed to someone who isn't, unless you are just absolutely the best of the best of the best and you like blew them away, they're gonna just pick someone who's right there in person because it's easier to just direct. And I think more opportunities will happen for you if you move to somewhere like Austin or Dallas or LA, just because there is so much more work. And you can meet a lot of people, and that's how I got a lot of.
Networking is hard.
That's how I got a lot of my jobs, was just meeting people, and that's just my advice. So if you have the opportunity and the luxury to move somewhere where there are more jobs, and you can meet directors and stuff and work with them in person, I would say do that. But yeah, I have the commercial demo, the voiceover demo, the visual reel demo, and it's like if I'm not able to go to LA and be there in person, or New York, they're like, we love you, but we really need you to be here every single week or for an entire month to do this project. And if you're not able to do it, it's like, oh, I'm going on vacation or whatever. It's like, sorry, you're not local. So
because sometimes it's like they
way of
have a
being.
pickup. They're like, oh my gosh, we totally forgot a line. Can you come in? We're gonna have to pay you for another 2 hours, but we'll leave you for 5 minutes. And it's you just have
If
to.
you're
be
not
there.
local,
And it sucks. But moving is a privilege.
Yeah,
like she said, it sucks. I know so many people that aren't local who you can't just pick up and move.
and they
it's
really
fucking
want to do
impossible.
it.
Do you have an agent? That's probably your first step, is trying to locate an agent, because at least that way you're getting. Another way is into indie work. There's a lot of indie work going on right now. Some of it's paid, some of it's not. I would recommend staying away from Casting Call Club. It's a little pay to play. They don't check anything. There's a lot of shit. I hate Casting Call Club. I'm just gonna go on the record and say that. VAC is better. That's the one Kira
started the
because
voice acting club.
because she was in Alaska. She was so removed, and like being English, I totally understand. You feel so out of the loop of everything. Sadly, some of it is networking, which you can do some of online. And I don't mean networking like the cheesy like, hey, I'm an actor. Hey. It's like making friends, being a cool person in the industry, congratulating people, like making genuine connections. Because then if you do, like we have a lot of people who moved to Dallas who we've known online Joshua Waters just moved down, and we've known them for years. And so now that we know them and they've moved here, we're all like, Joshua! And it's the networking's already kind of begun, and they're already called in for stuff. So just meeting people it's such a slow climb to the top. You have to be like so ready for it, to just tenacity.
Yeah.
Tenacity is the hardest
And being
thing.
nice.
Yeah.
And being good with rejection. Because you're gonna get 100 no's before you get a yes.
And understanding
So.
it's not even rejection. It's just you weren't the right fit. And that's the hardest part as a trans actor, getting in the booth and reading for all these binary roles that I'm like, no one's gonna think of me for this. But it's like just getting in there and doing the work, and just knowing that it's a tough road. And it's never been easier to be an actor, but it's never been harder because there's so much competition. So if it's what you want to do, just knuckling down, making a plan, making some friends, and following things like Culture Sound, Sound Cadence, those smaller boutique studios, because sometimes they do open. They'll open their Studio Nano. They'll open their intake, and they'll be like, we're now accepting new actors, and that's when you get it, because they don't always have their intake open. So keep their Twitters on like alert, so that when they finally say, hey, we're opening our intake, you're there and you've got your stuff and you can go right in and get on their list, and that's when they'll start sending you auditions. So good luck. I really wish. What was your name? David, I wish you the best, dude. Seriously, it's not easy. But you got this. If you love it, you'll find a way. Life finds a way.
For sure.
Well, that's all the time we had. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you go check them out at their booth. All right, we'll be downstairs.
Show us your ink if you guys.
Tons of merch at our tables, and we can answer any more questions that you have there. Thank you so much, you guys. This was awesome. You guys were great. Thank you.
Go catch those Pokemons.